tonight to discuss the very future of Nigerian universities, the urgent need for quality, innovation, the kind of research that solves our unique. Two of our most distinguished scholars and academic leaders. Firstly, please welcome Professor Olúṣọlá Bandele, Universities, the continent's premier higher education body, headquartered in Accra, Ghana. Before this, he was the Vice Chancellor of the Federal University of Agriculture in Nigeria, with over 40 years in the front lines of higher education, including a key role as a senior expert at the African Union Commission. His focus is on shaping policy, ensuring quality, and building leadership that will define our universities for generation. He is himself a prolific scientist, a professor of food microbiology and biotechnology with over 100 publications. Professor Oyewole, a massive
I think thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right. Alongside him, a man who is of deep.
Incidentally, true, man. Microbiology.
Yes.
A petroleum microbiologist. I hope we'll get into that because some of us don't know science so much like that.
Well, we're honored to have Professor Olukayode Oladipo among. He is one of our country's foremost microbiologists, a specialist in petroleum and environmental microbiology. His career began at the prestigious University of Lagos, where he rose from lecturer to professor and held almost every major leadership role you can think of: Dean of Science, Head of Department, and Director of the Distance Learning Institute. But his influence extends far beyond one institution. He was the foundational Vice Chancellor who built Wesley University of Science and Technology from the ground up, and later served as Vice Chancellor of 36 of that in the United States National Biotechnology Database. He embodies the research excellence we strive for. Professor Amond, we are truly privileged to have your voice in our arena today. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. I'm happy to be with you today.
Professors, welcome to both of you. The topic today.
The issue on the front burner is not going to be a long talk. We all know what the problems are. With caliber of eminent guests we have today. Well, simply put, a university is a community of teachers, researchers, and students. The university defines, interprets, and celebrates knowledge, which gives the society innovation, meaning, and coherence. The ivory tower is a place that furthers intellectualism, that questions other institutions and belief systems. The university, in essence, is for knowledge generation. And I like it the way they put it. In my university, knowledge that develops, and for problem solving. in Africa and across the globe. In terms of ranking and other parameters having to do with quality assurance, the Nigerian university seems to have fallen off the ladder to the extent that we have lost our hitherto global competitive edge. Very fortunately, however, we have mistake following which we go straight to the boiling room with Professor Olusola Iriwani, Emeritus Professor as I go to Kabisi, I must say I've learned discipline from Kabisi. He's a man that is a stickler to time. He doesn't like Nigerian practice. In our first few editions, I would prefer that, okay, let's wait 5 minutes for people to join. But Kabisi will say, 8 o'clock on the dot, let's go. Kabisi, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Julu, for setting to do. Again, Gaius, thank you very much for starting the session as well with a nice comment. Let me
that are federal or state run. When you have that, it also makes a weak research app, and we know this is one of the key things, that is used in measuring the quality of special education by the essentially leads to low investment in R&D, and then fewer publications and patents, by these academics as well. Again, is the issue of curricula at the various institutions. I recall when I was the chairman of SP, that Statistical Engineers in Nigeria, some years back, we had identified the poor quality of the graduates of Statistical Engineering and Geosciences in Nigerian universities, to the extent that some of the international oil companies would normally send new graduates, some of them with first class, second class offer, for a full 1 year retraining before they can be put into roles in the companies. I remember Shell did that. They set up what they call the Shell Intensive Training Program, which will train those who have HND and those who will have BSc as well as OND as well. Total also had their version, and that's what made them set up what they call the East of Home Studies at the University of Port Harcourt back then. And this has happened over the years. And we are trying to help these universities to upgrade their curricula, so that we can meet international standards. But again, that's the defense work together. So again, for an outdated curricula, one of the key things. When you have that, naturally you have poor global ranking. This is what we are suffering from now. Limited international collaboration and visibility. And of course, you have branding. Because top academia who feel frustrated, who just simply want to migrate to where they can have better access to facilities and for them to be able to do the right thing. And of course, they just look for better opportunities essentially. Another issue is political interference. We know that most of these, appointments are politically motivated rather than based on merit. The right person to the university, the right person being the director of an institute, so that they can actually do the right things, and can have the right output. So when you have political interference, what you mean, it often leads to additional problems. Of course, with all the instabilities, you have, stable calendars, and no wonder, that you have this, very frequent strikes in universities. The ASU will strike, even the students themselves will strike for different reasons. Because of some of these problems we have in terms of interference, poor infrastructure, and the rest. To wrap it all up, when you have the right people, the wrong people in these roles, and then the allegiance cannot be to the institution itself. It has to be those who are put in there naturally. And that naturally leads to corruption and mismanagement, which we have seen in a number of these institutions as well. And when you have misallocation of funds, a lot of accountability, it also just compounds the situation. These are just, some of the things that have beset our institutions for quite a while, and which has really something of a joke compared to what it could have been essentially. But then I'm happy that we have eminent and distinguished academia who can really help us dissect in more details. They've been there, they've done it, they've been in various roles, and they were also part of, in the system when things were good. And they probably also saw when things began to go downhill as well. So they're probably in a good position to help us analyze what really has led to, some of these issues that we have, spoken, about, and what can we do to address. First, is there hope, that we can regain our lost growth in our universities, and what do we need to do, from the government perspective, from the staff themselves, and from the society as well. Collectively, what can we do to really regain our mojo, so to say? Thank you very much, Professor Olusola Oyewole and Professor Lɪධᴇ for joining us. And we'll leave into your competent hands to guide us through this discourse this evening. Thank you very much to all our participants who have been listening. To all the last for the 8 months. We really appreciate your being with us all the period. We appreciate your feedback as well. So let them first have an enjoyable and productive session today.
Let me push forth somebody I call my boss. You know, once a boss, always a boss. Professor ᴍᴜᴛᴛᴇʀ was my boss. And here we have you. Well, I will be giving you like 7 minutes to make your initial perspective. But let me, herald it with this question. Where are Nigerian universities in Africa? You are the AAU scribe. You have gone around Africa, all the vice chancellors in Africa. You have gone around the world. Are we really there? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. ᴏᴜᴛᴜ. Let me express my special regards to the chairman of this occasion, KBSA, Professor Saka, Martin Ilola, and also special welcome to my partner, Professor Lɪධᴇ Health949. I'm going to start by saying that in Africa, Nigeria has the largest university system. For example, we have almost over 301 universities in Nigeria, a number you will never find in any other African country. But note this, the student population in Nigeria is about 2 million in other universities. Unfortunately, the academic staff numbers is just about 100,000 for over 2 million students, creating a student staff ratio of 1 to 21, far above the global benchmark of 1 to 10, meaning that Nigerian university operations are being carried out by just about 50% of the staff requirements. And this accounts for one of the big challenges in Nigerian university system. I need to also note that only a small fraction of Nigerian universities appear in global ranking, like the Times Higher Education. And also in the World University Ranking System of 2025, only 21 universities in Nigeria were featured, and none of these was placed in the world top 500. This is rather unfortunate. Just as been mentioned by the other speakers, many institutions in Nigeria lack robust infrastructure. Research capacity in Nigeria is rather low, and this coupled with the challenges of funding. And I will tell you, this is more or less the reason for the big decline in our university system. In fact, it is said that the graduate unemployment for universities in Nigeria is almost 40%. And what we wonder, are the graduates of Nigerian universities employable? What are the causes of this decline? Number one is the rapid expansion without adequate planning. It's unfortunate that many universities are being set up or approved without adequate planning. There are many private universities in Nigeria today. Unfortunately, many of our young people cannot afford the fees being charged by this. Beyond this, just as mentioned by KBSA, one of the biggest challenges in Nigerian universities is the funding challenges. Our universities are underfunded. And because we are underfunded, our infrastructures, research capacity has not been found adequate to meet world standards. But particular to Nigeria is the faculty challenges. Our professors are highly underpaid. The low salaries and poor incentives for teachers and workers in Nigerian universities make us not competitive with other parts of the world. You wonder if you will find foreigners wanting to come to Nigerian university to teach, they will probably not accept the low salaries being paid to our teachers. And the result of it is that universities in Nigeria are experiencing a high level of brain drain. And it's been difficult to improve the professionalism of the teachers in Nigerian universities. Even with this, and some other systemic problems, our method of teaching in universities in Nigeria is still student-focused. Teacher-focused. The world has moved away from this system of teacher-focused learning to a learner-focused learning system of learning, which continues to improve the innovation in our young people. Situation of KPSC earlier on, the curricula in almost even the bits need to be updated. Many of us are still using curricula in teachers from the colonial masters so many years ago. But as also mentioned, we have a lot of political interferences in the Nigerian university system, especially in leadership selection. And this may only be responsible for the unstable calendar, which makes planning difficult in the Nigerian system. And the consequences of this: one, poor global recognition. Two, we have reduced international collaboration and funding in our university system. And then, many of our districts are not able to compete with other graduates who simply have opportunities to go outside Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, Nigeria's university system today are perceived with ordinary degree countries. We are increasing the student population, but the quality of the products needs to be strengthened. Here I will just say, to round up my conversation today, to reclaim our global competitiveness, we need to strengthen quality assurance in Nigerian university system. Two, we need to increase investment in research and innovation. Three, for quality development, especially the development to enhance the ⴰᴜ to professors is very critical at this occasion. We just mention that infrastructure needs to be improved, and we cannot dodge away from this. Nigerian universities need to be improved, and I think that it will involve both the university governing councils and the government to be able to implement these changes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Tᴏɪᴛᴛᴇʀ. You started scoring goals very early. We still have, a long time to go, but that's a very good one. And thank you very much for those very informed statistics and the figures that you gave to background your session. Now, let me come over to Professor Cᴏᴜᴛᴜ. Let me just say you are my own. Your dad and I were very good friends, and we had our childhood together days, even though you retired 2 years ago from the University of Lagos at 70. We were far, junior to you. Thank you so much for coming here. I will be asking you the same question, but I will herald it with one rider. You spent 40 whole years at the University of Lagos, and probably the bulk of those years you were even living on campus. What was campus life like to a researcher? What does the university system, what was it like before? Or do we also say that it's still the same kind of environment where you spent 40 whole years? And let's find out where the university system is in Africa and in the world. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, for putting me on the spot. And I want to use this opportunity to also acknowledge the Royal Highness, Her Royal Majesty, Tᴏɪᴛᴛᴇʀ and my brother, the vintage Professor Yᴏò̀ᴜᴛᴜ. It's nice to meet you on this forum, even though it's a long time we met. So the floor has been well opened by the keynote speaker. So,
I think your internal.
I'm not going to throw your question away. That what is Iran sorry?
Your network is not very stable, but keep it on.
Yes. I lived on campus, as you rightly said, for almost 30 years before I retired. And as a researcher, living on campus actually gives you opportunity to be closer to your laboratory and to your office, to be able to spend more time on research. So I sympathize with most of our colleagues who are living off campus. You know, the academic work in general. Because when you spend 2 or 3 hours in traffic before coming to campus, you are already stressed out. And there's little or nothing you can deliver to students, whether in the laboratory or in the classroom. So that is a problem, by the way. But that notwithstanding, a lecturer has signed up to a contract to teach for community service and also to do research. So one has no excuse, you know, in not performing with regard to the duty to which, you know, you have elected to be engaged. But I just want to tell you that the quality, to say that the quality of university education has declined is an understatement. Because the university system that I joined is different from the university system that I left. Because going through our own student days, we had the best of facilities. We had the best of teachers. We had the best of university leaders. We had the best of funding in my own time. And we were able to sail through to a large extent before things went haywire. And the point at which the decline started was when Nigeria was subjected to economic woes, as a result of which, you know, little funding was coming to the university system. So, because anything, the bottom line of education is funding. But however, if we are going to trace a decline in quality, we cannot look at the university system in isolation. Let me start by looking at the quality of students. Students that are fed into the university system. Now, in our own days, because we passed through secondary school and post-secondary, by the time we arrive at the doors of the universities, we are already 2021. So we were men and women that came into the university system. So nobody encouraged us to go to class or to go and read, you know, or to carry out our responsibilities as students. But these days, babies are being fed into the university system through this 6-3-3-4 system. But the decline actually started at the point when the 6-3-3-4 system came, whereby babies are now being sent into the university system. So these babies
They don't come to class. They don't go to the library. They don't buy books. And they don't read. So,
sorry, Prof, can I interject you?
Yes.
You are talking about babies, quote unquote.
Yes.
But how come we have, you know, a university producing over 200, 250 first-class graduates? Is there not a contradiction? Please go on.
You know, that's a different ball game. But we are going to get there. Because we have propaganda first class these days. Not the type of first class that we knew in our days. So let us put that aside. We are going to get there. Even funding itself, you know, is a big crux of the matter. We will get there. So let us first look at the quality of students. Because these students are coming from secondary school. There is a total breakdown in the secondary school system itself. And it is garbage in, garbage out. So when you are not getting good infeed from the secondary school, then what quality do you expect to have in the university? That is one of the issues. And the second issue has to do with the quality of staff. In our days, we had alternatives, and we elected to become academics. We chose to become academicians, not because we didn't find jobs. In our days, recruitment was done while we were still studying. The various ministries would come to universities and interview us in our part 2. So that by the time we were finishing youth service corps, jobs were already waiting for us, either in the ministries or in companies. But those of us who came into academics, we came because we were interested. But these days, most of the people you find in academics have no business being there. So consequently, you cannot find the type of dedication that is expected of them. So, you know, you cannot give what you don't have. When you don't have the passion for the job, definitely there's little or nothing you have to deliver. So that is why instead of concentrating on the job, they concentrate on things that are not productive and that are not adding value to the university system. Then let me come to the quality of infrastructure. Because I had the opportunity of going around several universities by leading accreditation teams. And I have first-hand information as to what obtains in many of the universities, either federal, state, or private. Equipment in many universities are obsolete. The same equipment that we used almost 50 years ago in the university, that is what we are still parading in our first generation universities up to today. No replacement. And practicals are no longer held in many universities because no equipment, no reagents. So that is also affecting the quality in terms of infrastructure. Because infrastructure is not only building. But what we do in many universities is building and building. Many of our universities are overbuilt. Every college that comes in, either project fund or otherwise, is used to occupy the space to the extent that the master plan of many universities have been destroyed. The aesthetic value of those universities are destroyed. And lastly, quality of leadership. At the time we were in the universities, we had the big names like ᴍᴜᴜ J.F. Ajayi, ᴜᴜᴜᴜ Thomas, Ezilo, and Yabubaka, Ishaya Audu. Those are the big names, the big leaders of those years. They were only interested in getting the best out of the university system, and they committed their lives. But these days, you cannot find such leaders anymore. That is why there is a rat race for the vice chancellorship and a lot of rancor. You know, because it's about service. Why should there be rancor? So let me just rest for now. I've looked at 4 issues: the quality of students, quality of staff, quality of infrastructure, and the quality of leadership. I think we'll take, we continue the debate from here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gaius is itching to ask questions. Gaius,
right,
over to you.
Professor Olusola, let's go in with you with this one. Professor Mond has made a lot of points here, and from that foundation, I would like you to help us understand, this key idea of quality education. When we talk about quality versus quantity, especially in our conversation today, and relating to our universities today, what does quality in this sense really mean? Is it just about modern facilities, top-notch equipment, and good lecturers? What else are we looking at? Just paint a picture for us what quality education really means.
Thank you very much. When we talk about quality education, we are referring to curricular relevance. The relevance of the curricula to produce the right type of graduates with the skills and competencies required for development. When we also talk about quality, we also refer to the research outputs of the various institutions. And quality also can also be connected to the effectiveness of the teaching system in those institutions. There are some global standards that are used to measure quality, such as citations, international collaborations, innovation or innovative research, and graduate employability. On the other side, when we talk about quantity, we are only referring to number of universities, student enrollment, the programs being offered. And the assertion we are making today is that in Nigeria, our focus appears to be on quantity because we want to increase access to our young people for them just to move into the university system. Quantity without quality affects the relevance to university education. And the students to universities need to meet international benchmarks. Universities is connected to the universality of knowledge. So we are not just working in isolation as a country. We are being benchmarked against quality. When we in the acoustics and competencies, I met a young girl in Nigeria, and I asked, what have you learned from your university degrees? And he was not able to tell what he has learned from the program, and what he can do to the society. Let me stop here.
Thank you very much.
I'll take over from Professor Yomade.
Okay, please.
The question is,
it's breaking. We can't hear you clearly. Maybe you'll have to move a little bit so we get a better connection.
Can you shift your location a little bit?
MSc program.
Okay, it's fine now. We can manage this.
Please go ahead.
Go ahead, Prof.
Can you hear me?
Now, better.
Yes. So I want to tell a little story of what happened to me in 1979 when I went to UK to start my MSc program. Now, I went to the University of Kent at Canterbury, and I got to UK a week before resumption. I now decided to go to the university, I need to look at the hostel where I was going to stay and to also visit my department and see my supervisor. On getting to my department, my supervisor, I think he had arranged an impromptu test for me, unknown to me. And when I go to his office, he decided to ask me questions, academic questions. And the 3 questions he asked me, I answered correctly. And he said, wow, we are on the he said that we are on the same level. Please, I've lost my voice.
Yes, I think it's because of the passion. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Let me take some water.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Well, before Prof comes back.
To say that, you see, the quality of education depends on 2 major things, or 2 or 3 major things. One, the input. What are the things you are inputting into it? One, the quality and strength coming into the university system, the infrastructures available for teaching and learning and also research, and the quality of the teachers. The process is also very important.
Okay. Bring it on.
And the process, if we look at it globally, I can stop here for you to continue.
Okay.
Yes.
Prof, okay.
Just in continuation. Now, my supervisor now subjected me to an impromptu test, asking me academic questions. And I answered all the questions correctly. And he said, yes, it means we are on the same level. He said he had planned that I will go back to undergraduate classes to attend some undergraduate lectures to be able to bring me to the standard of UK. But because of the test that he gave to me, it meant that we measured up to the same standard and we are on the same level. So that is what quality education is all about. Global competitiveness and global relevance. That's what it is. So anywhere you go, you are on the same level with them, either in the United States or in the UK or in France. Anywhere you find yourself, you are not relegated to the background. That is what quality education does to you. I hope I've answered the question.
All right, thank you very much. You have indeed. Professor Amon, do you know, when we talk about Nigerian universities losing their shine, and I want to find out when you personally, from your point of view, start to notice that.
Can you
hear me?
Only 100% behind the.
Can you please mute this person? Technical. Please go.
So, Professor, when did you personally start to notice the decline? Was it something in the policies, or maybe funding started drying up, or was it more about leadership losing its way? From your point of view, where did things start falling apart?
Which of the professors?
It's a combination of factors. Funding was a major issue because there was a time when we had all the facilities at our disposal for teaching and for research. So when these facilities were no longer available, then frustration actually set in, and it impacted negatively on the students and even on the staff themselves, because they could no longer do the type of research that they ought to do. So at the point when the Nigeria went into economic coma, that was as from around 1987, when SAP, Structural Adjustment Program, came into fruition. That was when the decline started. Even though, and that was the time, it was around that time, the 1634 system also came on board, whereby we are not, getting the right type of students to come from secondary school into the university system. So it had to do with the decline in economy. The economy actually swallowed the university system up.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me, I like to do
There's
this.
something to that too.
Okay. In addition, sir, Prof, because I like to play up issues.
Just to say that government policy has also affected university education in Nigeria. For example, there was a time in this country when a permanent secretary and a professor on the same salary scale. Unfortunately, the remuneration of the permanent secretary has gone up, while that of the professor has remained stagnant for so many years, to the extent that we have not been able to attract foreign lecturers, even foreign students, into Nigeria's university system as we should. I was a vice chancellor of the Nigerian university system. There was a time they introduced this IPPS system of salaries in Nigerian system. This made it difficult for universities in Nigeria to engage foreign students or foreign lecturers or researchers from Nigeria on their own payroll. Some of these policy decisions made by government has really undervalued quality education in the Nigerian university system. I should also say that the curriculum in university system needs a change. The world today is demanding for a different set of skills and competencies from our young people. And until particularly change to reflect these real needs, we may continue to have problems about quality of education system. Thank you.
Okay, Prof, I will still get this question back to you. I like to play it up between both of you. I want to see the point of... no, I am with Professor...
We can't hear you, sir.
Oh, you can't at all? Hello?
He has to unmute his phone. He has to unmute his muted. He has to unmute.
Oh, okay. I can see now. All right. Sorry. I think I'm on now. Hello? Professor Yᴏᴜ? Yes. Basically, both of you have agreed on... there seems to be a consensus on most of the issues. But I want to find out, Professor Hammond spoke about baby first class, graduates. You are a vice chancellor of the university before your current job. There's hardly any university that you don't read in the papers. 200 and something made first class. Some 180 made first class. Given the level of decline that we are talking about, would you say, or would you agree that there are contradictions? Yes, that's my question, sir.
Is both yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, because for a Nigerian graduate to another environment in Nigeria, which the environment is conducive with the necessary research infrastructures, both Nigerian students and Nigerian researchers, they excel. So the problem may be with our environment. I'm not so much concerned about whether somebody makes a first class or something else, but please, the applied skills that can make a person to become a global citizen and be able to work in an environment that to promote development needs to be looked into. Thank you.
All right, Professor Mons, let's start.
Hammond.
Let's talk about the money aspect of it. Yes, we've talked about the funding, but I just want to get some clarification on this particular issue. Can our universities really deliver quality with the way they are being funded now? Is it that this funding isn't enough, or maybe it's not just being managed? I think that is where the question is. Is it about the funding itself, or when it arrives, it is not properly managed? What are we looking at?
Is that for me?
Yes, please.
Yes, I think it's both. The funding is not enough, and then management is also an issue. Even though funding can never be enough, because it's like you as a parent. Because funding is derived largely from the federal government, that's for federal universities, or from the state government with regard to state universities. Now, funding can never be enough, and it can only be, if it's not well managed, it can never be enough. Because I've served on the governing council of federal university, and I can see some frivolities with regard to projects that are being done, which may not be necessary, but money is just spent, unduly. So management in that regard can be a problem. So, but government on its own cannot do everything, because government as a father has many children. There are so many sectors to look at: the health sector, agricultural sector, industrial sector, all of which are requiring funding. So consequently, education can only be funded to the extent to which the government can go.
Is this not, Prof,
Yeah.
is this not a function of priorities? This is a Nigeria where government will sign, is it not over 90 billion naira for pilgrimages to either Jerusalem or Mecca? Is it not a country where you see committee to talk about minimum wage, spend billions to even for meetings? I just want to, let's put it in proper perspective. When you say government has many children, you know the children, you know the child that should get more. You know that the education is a bedrock of the nation. When you see the budget allocations, are you not disappointed sometimes that what goes to education and some other things go to defense, some other things go to conditional grants and things like that? That's for you.
Anyway, I'm not a budget analyst, but I know before the government can allocate funds to any sector, the government must have done its own groundwork. But what I'm saying, I'm not an apologist for government, but I'm saying this based on experience. About 2 or 3 years ago, I went on a course to Israel on higher education management, and we had to visit some universities in Israel. We went to University of Tel Aviv, and we went to Tᴏɪᴛᴛᴇʀ University. Now, at Tel Aviv University, which is the biggest university in Israel, they gave us a lecture as to how the university was being funded. So, and I asked them questions. So that what percentage of your budget comes from government? And they told us that 60% of their budget comes from government, and the remaining 40% is generated by them, by the university. And that the university has 166 startup companies that have commercialized research findings and research products, and they have commercialized this, and the university is living on income from startup companies. And when we got to Tᴏɪᴛᴛᴇʀ University, the picture was the same. At Tᴏɪᴛᴛᴇʀ University, we saw a very big industrial park, whereby even Microsoft was there. So many big companies of the world are in the industrial park, and they are commercializing the results of research from that university. And through that, the university is generating a lot of money, a lot of funds. Now let's look at Harvard today. Harvard has over $100 billion in endowment. And that is fund generated by the university itself, not depending on government. So governments cannot do it all. And we must be realistic about this. So we, as universities, we shouldn't be going cap in hand all the time. We must look inwards and see what we can do to improve our lot. That is just my submission.
Thank you very much. Let me bring up Professor Tᴏɪᴛᴛᴇ. By the way, in another 10 minutes, we'll come over to floor interactions. Well, some messages are already coming up. There's one from Dr. Tᴏɪᴛᴛᴇʀ. In as much as I don't have anything against the education minister, there are two major factors that have been making Nigerian universities victims of systemic neglect. One, the education minister is a medical doctor and he has nothing to do in the education sector. My question is this: don't you think his obnoxious policies is affecting and making education backward in Nigeria? Then two, what do you want to say about the lowest budget allocation of 7.2% on education when you compare the benchmark of UNESCO, which talks about 26%? Don't you think that government is not focusing enough attention and priority to education? Let me throw that one to Professor Tᴏɪᴛᴛᴇ.
Yeah, I'm going to avoid the political aspect of this conversation. But to say that in a ministry, it's not only the minister that takes decisions. There are professionals who are directors, who probably including the permanent secretary, who should support the minister. So the qualification of the minister not being a professor or not may not really be an issue, because there have been people who are not professors, who have been ministers of education and who have performed well. I think that
okay,
the system.
I don't want to interrupt you unnecessarily.
The real issue is systemic neglect. The universities do have their own problems. I will tell you, the way teaching and learning are carried out the goal.
You have internet issues now.
The necessary infrastructure for technology-based learning, it will affect the quality of teaching and learning in those institutions. But we tell you, to many universities of the world, innovation and entrepreneurship is now central in university operation. Universities are now encouraging the industry to come to the campuses, to put in incubators in their campuses, to the extent that for universities to really play a role in producing the necessary workforce needed by the industry. There's a need for our universities not just to collaborate with the government, but also to collaborate with the industry around them. So university industry collaboration is very important to improve the quality of our universities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Somebody is wondering here, when you say, you're talking about round pegs in square holes. If you have an HOD who is not a specialist in any of the courses that the departments are offering, I know it's fine not to, not to get into the political aspect of the, but there have been some troubles with what has been coming out from the the education ministry. You will not forget that, and some of the times they come out to say, no, we are not doing it again, we reverse it. It looks like these are products of what, when you have, square but it's fine if you want to avoid it, no problem. But let me, you want to still, okay, let me just let that. Let me just let that lie.
What we need is great leadership.
Correct?
It's not really connected with what is in it. It has to be personal.
Okay. Gayos, you'll be asking about, but let me read this. There are messages here already. Professor Bukola Onoshoga from FUNAP, he said, Nigerians are naturally blessed with incredible intellect. We shine wherever we go, given the right environment. Imagine the heights we will reach with proper infrastructure and support at home. The system shouldn't stifle our potential. There should be opportunities that nurture talents and drive progress. Thank you very much. Professor Lushola Adeneo, also from Abeokuta, education is a priority as far as the Nigerian government is concerned. Now which one is there now, Prof? Dr. Barrister Oladejo Aziz, I agree with Professor Emeritus Kayode Amon that retrogressive economic policies like SAP negatively affected the university system. Unfortunately, it appears that misplaced priority is very germane, as allocation / disbursement to education has been declining over the years, while other less important sectors get more funding at the expense of education and health. Somebody is saying we don't need a professor to be the honorable minister of education. You may even put a bricklayer there, maybe, and we get everything right. Borrowing from this is Canada. How do you rate the roles of our lawmakers, particularly in the National Assembly, in enacting appropriate legislation and funding of education in Nigeria? Can this be attributed to the quality of our lawmakers in terms of their focus, education, and less or inadequate political knowledge? Well, that's those are, and anyone can go for it before Gail asks his question, and then we can go to the floor. Yes, sir.
Yeah. It's not the
The network is not fine from your end, Prof. Can you just adjust? You are on now.
Okay.
We can hear you.
All right. The priorities of our government appears to be away from education. They have other things that appear to take their attention than education. One thing our government recognizes the importance of education and research. In fact, the way our government operates is as if they do not need a university for them to function. This is quite different from the attitude of other governments in other parts of the world to education. I think that the issue of misplaced priorities will be seen in the allocation given to education in national budget. So that is an important area that we need to focus upon. Where government appears to look at university with political tool for them to say that they be able to achieve social university to their own communities, but they are not looking at the purpose of those universities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me not leave out, this is my brother, Tai Arowojolu Alagwe, all the way from Qatar. We seem to agree that the quality of education in Nigeria is low. Amidst this, Nigerian graduates are excelling in the Middle East, UK, US, and everywhere. I think Prof made that point earlier. But what is responsible for this? And how is this possible? He added, World University Rankings and Times Higher Education use gender equality among students and staff, internalization of staff and students, and research collaborations. How can we bring this back to the universities? That is his question. But let me add this to Prof. Since he mentioned the research, it struck a chord in me. Some of the researches that brought you into limelight, I was told, Professor Yewale, was that you did a research on fufu that now made fufu to be odorless. Before then, when you eat fufu, you need to go and look for something to really wash your hand. Now, were you able to do that? Yes.
Well, I can just say that the intention for the research that I did was to do something that is relevant to our people. So I don't believe strongly that research should solve local problems while we want to be relevant internationally. This is the basis behind our focus on and looking at something that will contribute to our development. I think that right now, innovation should be at the forefront. Let me criticize our system a little. Our system of making people to become professors appears to be faulty, in that we are only interested in number of publications, whereas the board is not talking about innovations that comes from your research activities. I think we need to change our focus in that area. Thank you.
Yes, let me stay on that lane for a little while. Somebody also asked me, yes, university professors turn out researches that aim to be global, even though leaving out local problems. Researchers in Nigeria have not attempted to solve local problems. Is that what you also agree with? We have banditry in Nigeria, for example, and beyond academic, beyond, researches that are not practical, are pragmatic in nature, we have problem of corruption in Nigeria. Why is our own corruption so endemic, and there have not been researches that would, identify what is really wrong with us? At what point should Nigerians stop stealing? People in leadership, they amass a lot of money, and when they have opportunity, they get to positions, they continue like that. Why have there not been researches that we say, come on, let's solve our problem in
Nigeria? Talk about that, okay. Answer that.
Okay, yeah. Allowed. Anyone to go, we can throw a dice.
Anyway, what the research is all about is to probe into the unknown. The issue of corruption is known. We know the problem. If you are stealing, you stop stealing. That's the only solution. We know the problem. So, and when people steal, punish them. Now look at what
do we have that in Nigeria already? That when people steal,
we know the laws are there. The laws are there to deal with corruption.
That means there's a reign of impunity. I'm just trying to put it.
It's a reign of impunity because there's no punishment for sinners. For those who flout the law, nobody punishes them. Now let me cite an example. Government spent billions of naira to send people out as visitation panels. Until today, the white paper of the visitation panels to 38 universities were never released. And it was alleged that many of the university leaders were found culpable. And they are the ones who now went to use their mind to block the release of the white paper. Now, we will now be talking about research about corruption. When we don't have the will to stop corruption. If we have the will to stop corruption, we bring those who are corrupt to book. But when we are not ready to do that, then corruption will continue to pervade in our system. So I think that's just my answer.
All right, Professor Amon, just to...
I think Professor Yewole wants to take a bite.
Oh, okay, please.
Yeah, to that. I once met a Chinese professor who asked me a question. He said, why is Nigeria still poor with your large number of professors in your country? And the reason is clear. The professors do research without interest in development, so to say. Our professors do research without trying to solve technical problems. We do research just for the purpose of making publications and get promoted. I think that there's a need to change this. But the question you are really asking is corruption the reason why our professors are not doing relevant research for development? The answer is no. Mainly in our universities, the professors are not corrupt.
We can't, I think we lost you there.
Thank you.
All right, Professor Amon, let's dwell on you for some time now. It's a twin question that I have, and it's a way of clarification. I just need some clarifications here. We've heard about the political interference in appointments and decisions, but my curiosity is why the interests? What exactly is to be gained if, political interference is on board? But away from that, here is a tough one. Who do you think bears more responsibility for where we are today? Is it the government or the universities themselves? Professor, are you here with us?
Professor Amon?
Yes, Professor Amon, if you're here with us, please. Can you check? Is the mic muted?
No, the mic is not muted. Well, just to save time, before he comes up, we would in a bit be going for floor interaction. Can we have the studio number to call?
All right, sir.
While we will be asking for, those on Zoom to, indicate by the raising of hand. We need to make the conversation very robust. Feel free, I already see one hand there. But don't worry, we'll come back to Zoom. We first take some phone calls. There are about 6 radio stations in Nigeria that are, broadcasting this program live.
The numbers 0906 0992609 or 0704 1007949. You can also text us on WhatsApp. Send us a voice note on 0915 849 4949. That's our WhatsApp line. I'll take it again. 0915 849 4949.
For the voice call, please call it again.
0906 0992609. Or you can also try 0704 100 7949. 0704 100 7949.
Okay, when we have a call, please bring it on.
All right. Professor, are you here with us now?
Professor Amon?
I'm with you.
Okay, we lost you, but welcome back. I was just trying to get some clarifications on this issue of political interference in appointments and decisions. I'm wondering why the interest, though, and away from that, who do you think bears more responsibility for where we are today? Is it the government or the universities themselves? What are your thoughts on this?
I would say both. Both the government, that is, the owners of the universities, by abdicating their responsibilities, and also the complicity of the university system itself because of the attitude of students, attitude of staff, and the leadership. So, because once you don't have the good leadership, when you have the round peg in a square hole, definitely going to be a problem, because government interference is limited. Because that will not be fair to say that government is interfering in the university system. Government has enough on its shoulders, that will not come and be interfering in how the universities are run. Government has appointed leaders for the university. And if the leaders are not doing their duties, definitely they should claim responsibility for it. So, government on its own is to provide funds. The government is not providing adequate funding, because government may not have what is adequate to share out to the university system. But on our own, how do we manage what is given to us? That is the crux of the matter. Because many of the things we do are frivolous. We don't put funds in the right direction. And we are so lazy that we don't go out to generate funds on our own. I started the instance of Tel Aviv University that is generating 40% of its budget. And the university where I obtained my PhD, Stanford University in the UK, is generating some 5% of its budget. In fact, the government said so in the UK. The university is generating the bulk of its funds. So why can't we look inwards and do the same? By doing applied research, then we'll be able to commercialize products that will fetch us money. We are not doing that. We are only doing basic research, for promotion, just like Professor Yᴏᴜᴛᴜ said. We are not doing applied research. And that can, be commercialized and then, generate income for the university. So we have to look in that direction to be able to salvage the situation. Thank you.
All right, Professor, just before we let you go on this one, talking about the universities, how much freedom do they have, if they do have any freedom at all? Should they be given more freedom to run themselves? If yes, what are the risks there? Is there a possibility to run 50-50, with the government doing 50 and the universities doing 50%, and then, get our universities running?
That's for
Professor Ahmad.
Okay.
We're still with you.
Now, if you put this question to the government will tell you that you already have the autonomy. After all, you choose your leaders yourselves. So you cannot, all you do is to present names before me, and I approve whatever you approve before me. So there is a high degree of autonomy in university system as of now. And I'm talking about federal universities where I spent 40 years. So there is a high degree of autonomy. It's only with regard to funding that we expect the government to put in more, which is not happening.
Thank you very much. Time is, racing, and I don't know how quickly we can do this, but Professor Iwole, who is a vice chancellor? I mean, what he has talked about, Prof has talked about fundraising capabilities. Is the vice chancellor, whose duty is it to raise funds for a university, bearing in mind that professors are not necessarily gifted with such capabilities? I don't know whether you want to agree with me. When Professor Wande Abimbola came here, he told us that in other climes, particularly in America and some places in Europe, that the vice chancellor of a university is not necessarily a professor. Do you align with that view? If we want to make universities raise more, do we go and bring bank CEOs and or some other people who are gifted with administration and maybe who can do it better? Thank you. Professor Iwole. Yes, the question is for you, sir.
It's not so good, but my network was not so good. But what I can get from you, you asked what are the qualities that anybody that will be appointed as a vice chancellor should possess. Number one is vision. A professor should have a great vision for that university. 2, innovation. Innovative management of the university is very critical to the success of a vice chancellor in the university. There are other requirements. Ability to raise funds. Promotion of international.
You could barely hear that. Yeah. I think the network is.
A corporate leadership that can help to fulfill the vision of the university.
Okay, I said earlier, maybe you didn't hear that part. Professor Wande Abimbola said the fundraising capacity is being limited because the structure insists that only a professor can head a university, unlike in other climes where somebody who is a Mr. can be the vice chancellor, like in Harvard and some universities. Do you align with that view?
Most universities in Africa, when we are vice chancellor, they look at the of the universities. You think that you need to have a research capability to lead a university.
Okay, thank you very much. Does Professor Hammond have an opposing view?
No, I don't align with the view of Professor Wande Abimbola. Because I'm aware.
Bring it on.
I'm aware that in American universities, you don't have to be a professor to be the head of the university. In fact, they are called presidents. They are not called vice chancellors in America. But in the UK, you must be a professor because you cannot give what you don't have. You know, scholarship is very, very important, very critical. Because if you are going to be, you are not only the image maker of the university, you are the #1 academic leader of the university. So for you to give leadership to an academic institution, you must know what it's all about. You must be a good researcher and you must be a good teacher. That is when you can stop over others. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we are going to be receiving phone calls now.
Take the number again now.
Please take the number again.
0704 100 7949. 0704 100 7949. Or you can try 0906 0992609. Our text line is 0915 849 4949.
Okay. If we don't have a call yet, we'll go for Zoom. We don't have yet.
No call.
Okay. Oh, Professor, his hand is off. But we have Professor Olusola Adeniro. Is that the mathematics expert? Yes, of Newton.
Also, thank you very much for the opportunity. Our various speakers have spoken about the situation in Nigeria university. And if we look back, we discover that the Nigerian university system at some points in the past can compete favorably with any universities any university in the world. But we have not been adequately informed about the point at which
we lost you there, Professor Olusola Adeniro. Okay.
And I'm with you. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, you are loud and clear.
Can you hear me
now? Yeah. Please go on.
Okay. We have had various types of, well, at least 2 types of government. Right from, 3. Right from when the first university in Nigeria was established in 1948 under colonial government. Then we had civilian government from 1960 to 1966 when the civilian took over. But personally, I've had the opportunity of sitting in a debate with some of those our teachers, our grandfathers in the academics, who were teaching in the university in the early 60s, and who had the opportunity of teaching us in the university in the late 80s to the early 90s. And then they were able to tell us how things began to degenerate. I personally feel that it was when the military took over that the interest of government in education in Nigeria, particularly the university system, began to wane, because the think tank during the early stage in the university system, the think tank of government was actually the academics. When the people in the university wanted to offer the same thing that they were offering the civilian government in the 50s, the 60s to the military resisted. And to ensure that the best of all, and even the welfare of the university, is all affected. And some governments are taking advantage of what the military recruited to them. And then things begin to get terribly bad, to the extent that if you come to our university, like particularly the university where I teach, there is no single foreign student, either as postgraduate student or undergraduate. Whereas those of us who attended university in the late 80s and the early 90s, we had even Palestinians sitting in the same class with us. But now that has been eroded. The question I want to ask, the follow-up to all these all the things that I've said, is how can we retract ourselves to the extent that our foreigners will begin to come to our country, they begin to share knowledge with us, and we begin to share knowledge with them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Adenino. Let's go over to Professor Adeni Yolayoju. You were the first to raise up your hand, and you disappeared somehow. Now you have appeared again. Please go on.
Thank you. We want to appreciate you for bringing this discourse our way. I want to also appreciate our mentors in the house, Olusholo and Olukáyọ̀dé for their submissions. Let me just speak to the issue of ranking. Face our performance in the global ranking. The point is this: every ranking process has what is called a template. It's like you are preparing for WASC, you already have a syllabus to read to. You don't read outside the syllabus. Preparing for JAM, you have a syllabus. So if you are going to appear before a particular ranking, templates will be given out. For example, if you look at the Times Higher Education Impact Ranking, which is strictly on sustainable development goals, there are 4 components that they are looking at: teaching, research, stewardship, and outreaches. So if you are going to make submission and you don't give them information on your teaching capability, research activity, stewardship, that is what the management is doing. All of these things have to be on your website, because they are not going to knock at the gate of your university. It is what you populate your website with that they will take, and then they will now address with. So the issue is not as if we are not we are not able to perform well at the ranking, but we are not supplying the necessary information. And I'm going to quickly buttress this. In 2019, Professor Peter Okebukola, the then NUC Executive Secretary, gave a convocation lecture at Covenant University. And he told us, all the vice chancellors that were present, by the way, I'm a former vice chancellor of Landmark University. And he said, only 2 universities in Covenant University and 2 years later, we also appear in the ranking, and we came 5th. I went ahead and let the Veritas University community for them to appear first in SDG6 talking about clean water and sanitation. I came back to Mountaintop University, let them in quality education SDG 4. And as if that was not enough, came back home to the Federal University of Agriculture and Yᴏò̀ᴜᴛᴜ, and we were able to come first in Zero Hunger, SDG 2. So what I'm driving at is that we need to sensitize our university community. We need to sensitize our leaders that there are things, there are information that we have to put forth. And by the way, the issue of our many postcards that we are producing nowadays, I'm a lecturer. I know the performance of my students from years ago, and I know the brilliancy of the students that we are training or teaching now. They have information on their hands. A lot of things that we don't have in our own time, they don't have it. And so what I'm saying in essence is that those postcards most of the time are genuine first-class graduates. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Let's have the borrowing. Tᴡɪᴛᴛᴇʀ. You are on.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Okay, yeah. I just want to have a quick diversionary sector question. So far, so good. We have blamed the government. We have blamed the lawmakers and the university administrators. What level of blame can we attribute to the students themselves in terms of the level of decadence in our universities? The students themselves, what are the blames attributed to them? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, let's, since the calls are not coming, I'm looking at Professor Hammond itching to say something before we go back to the floor. I see your hand, Professor Adetunji. Professor Hammond.
Yes, on the complexity of students. The students have a lot of negative contribution to what is on ground in the university system. Now, for example, the crop of students we are having these days are not serious at all. And they are not encouraging to the lecturers, themselves. Because once you are not encouraging to your teachers, they are not going to give their best. Now, let us carry out a survey in universities today. How many students have textbooks for the courses they are offering? You will find out that when a student comes in from 100 level to 400 level, he or she will never buy a single book to use, for the program. And the same student does not even know where the books from his courses are located in the library, because they won't use the library, they won't buy books, and they won't come to class. Then what quality of students are we then producing? Because in our days, we knew where every book was located on the shelf in the library. Apart from the fact that we bought books for our courses, and we never missed classes. So, the students are not interested in what they are doing, and they are quick to go on rampage, because I was Dean of Student Affairs for 4 years. We are always pacifying students not to go out on strike, because they are always willing to do that, to disrupt the academic calendar. That is always their interest. So they are not, even though we are struggling that the government should fund education, but they that are supposed to be on the receiving end are not encouraging the system at all. That's just my own contribution.
Yes, over.
I perfectly agree that the quality of the students coming into the university is very important. But we can trace this to the quality of secondary school education and primary school education. For us to improve the quality of the students coming into the university system, we also need to be concerned about the quality of primary and secondary school education. I quite agree that many of our students are only interested in the degree and not in knowledge. and they are not disciplined enough for them to be able to impart the appropriate knowledge that they need to acquire in the university system. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will go over to Professor Tᴜɪᴛᴛ. But meanwhile, you were dead right when you said, when you were talking about, you cannot just look at the university system in isolation. There are preparatory steps, in the secondary, even in the primary. I saw a video before we started. The video person attempted to, compare what happened to to puppies in China. They'll be playing with, they'll be innovating, trying to do something like a gun or so. Or you will see our own. They will be doing something like Yankee. The teachers will be teaching them how to wriggle their waist and how to tweak and, And if you see the environment of the classrooms, you know which one is better. I just wish that we can really do better talking about infrastructure. Professor Tᴜɪᴛᴛ, yes, let's have you. Is he unmuted? Professor Tᴜɪᴛᴛ? Okay. If we can have him, we'll move over to Olukoga Fatai Olajide. Hello. Okay. Well, since we cannot have them yet, Professor Tᴜɪᴛᴛ, are you there? I am mindful of the fact that we have not spoken about the issues of private universities. They also have issues. Professor Hammond said he has led many accreditation teams. He didn't mention private universities, but I'm sure, as you go to federal, you go to state, you also go to private universities. What they do in the private universities? Tell us about the quality. We have so many. We have the big ones. They have infrastructure. But we also have private universities looking like secondary schools. So with due respect to please let's talk about private universities too, and how we can do to level up performance.
Yes, thank you very much, moderator. You remember that I actually started one private university, and I also led another private university for 5 years. That is, I started Wesley University, and I was Vice Chancellor of Lɪධᴇ University for 5 years. Yes, the incursion of private universities into the university system is a welcome development, and it's very encouraging, actually, because the best universities in the USA are private universities. Take, for example, Stanford University. So Stanford is one of the world leaders, and Yale is also a private university, and so many like that are doing very well. But in Nigeria, it is a mixed grill. We have very good ones, we have good ones, and we have ones that are just in infancy, that are still coming up. But my own submission is that private universities in Nigeria are for the future. Because today, they have myriads of problems militating against themselves. Because they are a problem to themselves for now. Because those universities, they will come up like Stanford when the proprietors are no more. Maybe in another 20, 30 years, when the proprietors are all gone, then those universities will be run by foundations, and they'll be run according to the law establishing them, and due process will be followed. And for now, they are suffering from my own syndrome. I own it. Therefore, the vice chancellors are not given a free hand to run those universities. And when you don't have a leader that has a free hand, that kills his vision. And you won't be able to do, you cannot work outside the interest of the proprietor. And, you know, sometimes there is instability in many of the universities. Let me cite a particular instance, a story. A senior colleague in one of those universities, he told the proprietor that he's working contrary to Senate decision on a particular matter. And the proprietor said, what? I am the Senate of this university. I am the council of this university. So how can you tell me what to do? The following day, he gave me a letter saying that his services are no longer required. And because of that, many of the staff members are only, you know, it appears as if there's no job security for them. Consequently, they cannot settle down to contribute meaningfully to the development of those universities. So you'll see that the staff, you know, there's no stability in the staff team. Many of them are only using the place as a stopgap. So a few weeks ago, we did screening in the University of Lagos for those who applied to my department, where I'm emeritus professor. 48 of them applied for 2 vacancies. And almost all that applied were from private universities. They want to leave the private universities and come to federal universities. So there's instability for now in those universities because the founders, the proprietors are micromanaging the university. They are not giving the leadership the free hand to run. That's just my own experience.
Thank you. Professor Tᴏɪᴛᴛᴇʀ must have something to say about it.
The thing that Professor Hammond has spoken from experience, having worked in a private university, but to note that some years ago, we carried out an analysis of private universities in Nigeria. You'll be surprised that many of them are not viable. They are not able to attract adequate number of students that can make them to be viable as an institution. And the result of this is this. They are more or less more the quality in certain situations in order to attract encourages. We will tell you, in a federal university, you can fail a course, it will be counted against you. But in private universities, you may be given the opportunity to retake that course, and then they erase completely the first record of failure. Why are they doing this? Because they want to break even, they want to encourage patronages. As mentioned by Professor Hammond, the leadership, the technical leadership, are not given free hand to operate. And so there is a leader.
There's a break there.
The ones do not have job security, as mentioned, and this is making the future not to be good for private university. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Finally, Olabode Taiwo, please unmute him. Technical team.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Arundulu. I appreciate our two fathers in the house, Professor Yᴏᴜᴜ and Professor Alfman. I may have to draw you back a bit on the issue of who should head the university. And my question is going to Professor Hammond. You said that you cannot give what you don't have. That to head the university, you must be a researcher because of how important research is. And my question is now, who should head the university? A researcher or an education administrator? We have professionals in education administration. Who should head? A researcher or an education administrator? Which one is contained in one? Is research contained in education administration, or administration is contained in research? That is it. Because another thing is, what makes institutions in Africa different from institutions overseas, where we have non-professors heading a university? But in Africa, according to the view of Professor Almond, a professor should head a university. And another thing I want you to consider before you answer this question is there have been innovations and inventions which are not from academics or people in academics at all. That is my question. Who should head the university? A researcher or an education administrator? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I think you can attempt to answer the question and then just wrap up your perspectives, following which we will invite Kábíyèsí, who has been listening with rapt attention, to close the ceremony or the discourse. Thank you. Anyone can go first. I think Professor Yewole will start.
It is said that from universities across Africa, there are universities in Africa that are headed by people who are new professors. To give an example, Mohammed VI University in Morocco is an industry-intensive university and it's not headed by a professor. The reason is the vision of that university is innovation and entrepreneurship. I think that the decision about who has a university will depend on the vision and mission of that university. If the vision and mission is innovation, entrepreneurship, and industry collaboration, I think that a non-professor can head the university. I'm not saying that that leadership should be called vice chancellor. It can be given the title of president. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Almond. Technical, please unmute Professor Almond. Okay.
Okay, yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. On the issue of vice chancellorship, I believe that there are criteria which are taken into consideration before somebody is appointed as a vice chancellor. You are not only a professor, but a professor of several years. Someone who has also held other positions within the university. Someone who has gone around the system, and the system has actually passed through him. Because without the system passing through you, you cannot give the right leadership for the university system. You must know the system that you want to lead. And for us to also get out of the doldrums in the university system, I want to admonish universities to start operating within their carrying capacities. The population of universities is beyond their carrying capacities. That is not so overseas. Take the number of students you can cope with. Don't just take students because you think the allocation of funds is tied to the number of students that you take. That is why quantity rather than quality. So to have quality, we must operate within our carrying capacity. That's my submission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we should quickly bring up Kábíyèsí. Right. I know Kábíyèsí is somewhere there. We will see him in a bit. Let's have Kábíyèsí there.
Thank you very much, Professor Olúṣọlá Oyèwọlé and Mentor Professor Lìධᴇ Health949. I thoroughly enjoyed the session today, and to all the contributors as well. I really appreciate all of the contributions. It's been a very exciting evening, and I think it's been very productive as well. So let me just add my voice to the last question that was discussed, and I'll just illustrate that with just an example that I witnessed when I was at Kebbi University as a postdoc. This was in the mid-1990s. And there was, this was Department of Engineering at Kebbi University, Tᴡɪᴛᴛᴇʀ Street.
They had a materials engineering unit, and the head of the department was about to retire. Very well respected world leader in materials engineering. And then there were a number of contenders, top professors, most of them English. And there was this young Irish professor. If I just had his professorship maybe 2 years before. But then this young professor, his name was Norman Fleck, who was Irish, was the one that was bringing the largest, I think about half of the funds coming to materials engineering was coming through Professor Norman Fleck. He had contacts, was bringing it from Australia, from the United States, majorly, a bit from the UK. And then lo and behold, when the Professor Ashby, who was the retired head of the department, was about to leave, they just made Norman Fleck the head of the department. So I'll just leave my answer, as that. So it's about leadership. It's about who can really bring value to the university. Not necessarily because you have a degree in entrepreneurship or you're a professor of 50 years. It's about, can you bring value, the right value to the institution? So having said that, I think we all agree that the decline in our universities is reversible. We just need visionary leadership, devoid of political interference. We need political will to do the right things. We need to have strategic investment in the universities, both federal, state, or even private universities. You can see that the issues that we've talked about that are affecting our universities, it affects both private and government institutions, but in different complexion. There's also need for global partnership as well. Essentially, we can restore our universities to the center of excellence that they once used to be in Africa and beyond. By having increased investments, curriculum reform, research and innovation hubs that will enable us to have centers of excellence in all areas of, medicine, engineering, ICT, and what have you. And also to have governance reform, ensuring that there's accountability. The amount of the funds that are available must be judiciously utilized, and there must be creativity in the way our universities also attract funds. You have to depend solely on the allocation from the government alone. Let's go out there. Professor Amman gave an example of I think what Professor Yᴏᴜᴜ spoke about how some of the universities in Israel were doing this, and that applies to most other universities as well in other countries as well. And also the comment about student-centered approach rather than the teacher-centered approach, and then global visibility. Again, thank you very much to all the contributors. We really appreciate you. I would also thank our media partners, all the 6 partner radio stations, particularly Wash 94.9 FM, for hosting us, for these several months. Thank you very much. And to all those who have been part of this, journey right from when you started. Again, I want to come back on the issue of feedback we've been receiving from our, participants. The feedback, as they come, we try to implement as much as we can, and these areas improve the quality of our delivery month on month. So please keep them coming. I will appreciate you all. Thank you very much, and have a nice week ahead. Thank you, and back to you, Dr. Ojolu, and to Gareth as well. Have a nice evening.
Thank you very much, Kabis. I cannot thank you enough. And you already said it. One of these days,
recording has stopped.
One of these days, we will do a physical edition, and you just look forward to that. There's somebody who I should just give this opportunity. Kabis already rounded up, but this person is not likely a Nigerian, who is on the Zoom, Ransford Beko. I hope I got it right. Some American universities don't have professors heading their institutions. It is the vision of the university that determines who is leading it. Some are good fundraisers and use their influence to draw it for their universities. In Morocco, the president is not a professor, but the university is top ranked. Then somebody also said, as we wrap up, Obasanjo appointed Professor Adeoye Lambo, who is a professor of business administration, as the health minister, and he excelled in that position. Adeoye Lambo is not a professor of business administration. I think he was a neurosurgeon. Well, that's he was a neurosurgeon. Then Israel Obasanjo also appointed Professor Chukwuma Soludo, who was not a banker, as the CBN governor. Soludo's appointment is the genesis of Nigerian bank's growth beyond the shores of Nigeria. So for me, we will not achieve anything if we continue to think that only professors should be VCs. Competence and accomplishment should be the focus, not professorial title. That's Tai Arudulu Alagwe. I want to thank Professor Yᴏᴜᴜnᴜ. One thing I noticed in this preparation for the discourse, you don't have a kind of topic like this and not jump at it because you want to redeem the situation. The situation is bad, but we just believe that, with a lot of insights that have been revealed, the brighter days are ahead. So thank you so much, Professor Oyewole. Thank you also, Professor Olukayode Amund, for saying yes this time around. Thank you, sir. Let me go to Gaius. I should not monopolize this microphone.
All right, thank you very much, professors. Indeed, we've had a very powerful conversation on the states of our universities. And one very thing that catches my attention is what one of the professors said. It is possible for a turnaround, and that gives me a lot of joy, Dr. Ayo, really, that it is possible for a revival, so to speak. That these are universities can, get back on track and meet up with international standard at the end of the day. It's been really nice this evening, and good, Dr. Ayo, to do business with you on this level today.
Thank you so much. Hopefully, we'll continue on that. Somebody corrected Professor Eyitayo Lambo, not Adeoye Lambo. Adeoye Lambo was a world-renowned surgeon. I want to say thank you, particularly the participants who are always there, come rain, come shine. Well, this is the size of our package. Next month, we will be sure that God will lead us to bring up, the usually explosive encounter. Maybe not again education. Maybe we'll dive into the political talk, the issues of Trump, the issues of so many things. God helping us. Thank you so much. One more time, Ayo Arudulu is my name. I must not fail to acknowledge Professor Mrs. Bolanle Akeredolu she sat all through. Thank you so much. Zoom, please, as we round up, you could just open up the faces and unmute all the participants so that we can see our face. Thank you so much.